So, welcome back to the Rewind Project. We are rewinding. I don't know why I can't say that word. It's literally in our title, but for some reason I cannot say that word so easily. Rewind. We are rewinding back to 1991, where, gosh, it was a very busy year. I was 13, I think. Yeah. So I don't remember. I mean, I remember some of these things, but obviously, it's much more newsy as a 48-year-old. So starting in January, wow, history just comes right back around. The U.S. led coalition launched Operation Desert Storm to remove Iraqi forces from Kuwait. Victory was declared the following month. I remember where I was. I was sitting on my parents' bed watching Dan Rather, and he announced that it was going to, Operation Desert Storm had happened. And, I didn't really quite get the concept, but I do remember where I was. And then, just continuing the wild a wild year of 1991, in March, officers of the LAPD beat, but did not kill. It's quite a side thing.
I
Black
mean,
motorists.
look, since George Floyd, since Eric Garner, since,
True.
Philando Castile, whenever you talk about the police and, dealing with an unarmed black citizen, most of the time there is murder involved. So I
Mhm.
just thought as I was typing
Yes.
this out, it's like Rodney King did live to see another day, but the following happened. Go ahead.
Yes. Sparking riots in Los Angeles and a nationwide debate on police brutality. Guess what? Haven't really
Haven't
changed
solved that
much.
one either.
Wow.
Nope. Check and check. In August, the first website was launched by Tim Berners-Lee, marking the beginning of the World Wide Web. In October, Anita Hill accused Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment during the Supreme Court confirmation hearings. He would eventually be confirmed with a 52-48 vote. And boy, did that go well for all of us.
Yes. Bad decision making, Congress.
Wowie, wow. And then in December, the former Soviet Union disbanded into 15 independent states, marking the end of what we know as the Cold War.
So yeah, nothing much happened in
No.
91.
Here we
Wow.
are 35 years later. Same as it ever was. The top song, wow, this might be the most annoying song in the history of music, is Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams from the epic movie Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
But at the time, that was such a great song. Like,
It was.
it
I
was a
mean,
great song.
everything I do. Box office champs, and I think no surprises here. In third place, the OG Beauty and the Beast, which is my favorite Disney of the time of
Mine
the
too.
is the rebuilt Disney. That's my favorite one.
Oh, see, I'm a
Um,
Little Mermaid guy,
okay,
but
I feel like people are either Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast or Lion King. It's like one of the three
Yeah.
is your sign.
although Robin Williams as the genie in Aladdin
Oh,
puts that in
Yes.
real contention for me too.
I like Aladdin only for Robin Williams. I don't love the whole thing, but Robin Williams is absolutely a fucking genius in that movie.
And A Whole
Agreed.
New World is a banger. So
True. Still is. In second place, the aforementioned Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where Kevin Costner does a variety of different accents.
and
Not
is so
losing it.
bad and is so bad they have to give the big rousing speech to Morgan Freeman as a
Correct.
character I can't even remember his name. He was basically a sidekick, but he had to do the big storm the castle speech because Kevin Costner was just so Costner.
So bad. But did bring us Alan Rickman in the form of the Sheriff of Nottingham. So
That's true. That is true.
that is
Why
exciting.
a spoon? Because it'll hurt more.
And then number one in the box office in 1991, a movie I've never seen, Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
What?
I've seen the original Terminator, but it's not Terminator 2. I know some people say 2 is better than 1. So,
2 is like 1, like Aliens is to Alien.
oh, okay. That's
It
good
is
to know.
such a different movie, and that it doesn't harm the original in any way, and it's not necessarily better than the original. It's just a completely
But
different
just
kind of
different.
film. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I always thought it was kind of lame that it's like, oh, now that Schwarzenegger's a big star, let's make him the good guy in this one. It's like, why? Just,
I'm totally on board and enjoyed the entire movie.
yeah.
And that might be the 13, well, I guess I was 15 at the time, 15-year-old in me, but also the other Terminator, the T1000 with Robert Patrick. Is that it? Yeah. Uh, fucking scary. Like, hadn't seen anything like that at that time. It was more terrifying than the original Terminator.
And then Oscar winners of 1992, a sweep based on a movie we have talked about on this here pod. Silence of the Lambs sweeps the big five: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay Adapted. So,
Well deserved.
I mean, still an
So good.
amazing movie.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And that was 1991.
Let's have a nice Chianti.
Welcome to the Rewind Project, where Allie, Matt, and Eric take another look at your favorite milestone movies through the lens of our present day. Will it be a skip, rent, or buy? Stay tuned and find out.
Okay, everyone, taking our trip in the rewind machine back to 1991, 35 years ago. I was a mere sprig of a lad at 20 years old when Thelma and Louise came out. Saw it in the theater. Anybody else? No.
I was 13, so no. That was actually, and this time watching this movie for this podcast is the first time I've ever seen Thelma and Louise.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I have some fresh thoughts as we go through.
Okay.
I watched it later as a rental with friends, so not in the big theater. But I did enjoy it when I watched it the first time a couple of years ago.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, that was it?
Well, I mean, it's probably, I don't remember exactly when, so probably in my mid-20s, so more than a couple of years.
So not a couple of years.
couple of years in like age time.
What is time?
What is time?
Directed, this blows my mind, by Ridley Scott. I'm always surprised when I'm reminded that he directed this movie.
I forgot about that.
I was shocked because I did not know that.
Okay. Written by Callie Khoury, who's had quite a career since then, but nothing as high profile as this. Notable achievements. This is an Oscar winner. It got the one Oscar that Silence of the Lambs was not eligible for, which was Best Original Screenplay, since Silence of the Lambs was based on a novel. It was Oscar nominated for Best Actress twice. Both Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon were nominated for their roles. It was nominated for Best Director, Best Cinematography, and Best Editing. Did not win any of those.
Well, you're going to split the vote, right? You're going to split the vote if you're nominating both of them in Best Actress.
Sometimes. I mean, Shirley MacLaine won for Terms of Endearment, and her co-star was also nominated for Best Actress right beside her, but it was Shirley's turn, and I mean, that was more, so it can happen. If everyone hated one and really liked the other, it might have gone their way, but I just think the Oscars were on a Silence of the Lambs kick. I mean, Jodie Foster was just unbeatable.
And we'll talk about it, but I think it would be hard to pick between the two because they were both so great.
Oh, see, that's interesting. Let's talk about that later, because I think one is clearly not a better performance, but a much better role.
I won't disagree with that. Yes.
One of these roles, it just has,
it's not like the other.
an arc that the other one does not. Anyway, Golden Globes, same situation. Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon were nominated, did not win. Callie Khoury did pick up a Golden Globe. I don't know if Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon were nominated for drama or musical comedy. I'm assuming drama. This had some funny moments, but it was not a comedy.
No, it sure wasn't.
By any stretch. But the National Board of Review gave their Best Actress Award to Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon. They don't do the nominations and announce an award. They just announce their winners, basically, but they just announced that it was a tie and gave it to both of them and included the movie in its annual top 10 list. And other notable achievements are around. I mean, if you look up, the awards page is very long for Thelma and Louise, but those were the highlights. The basic plot is two good friends plan a road trip, and on their very first night, one of them kills an attempted rapist, and so now they're on the run from the law, and escapades happen, tensions deepen, more crimes are committed, and pretty soon there's a manhunt being led by the FBI. It becomes a pretty big deal. That's basically what happens.
Fun for the whole family.
Here's my question, though. What started this movie for me is me questioning not questioning the friendship, but they don't provide you with any sort of backstory. I mean, a little bit here and there. But
Mm-hmm.
it was hard for me to get to love these two as best friends or good friends or friends at least that, I don't go on road trips with all of my friends, so somebody that you would want to go on a trip with. I don't know that I necessarily got that connection between the two, and that kind of started the movie off in a little bit of a for me.
We don't know any of their history. That's a really great point, because as the movie progresses, you realize that Louise is not from that area. She's from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when did they get together? When did they become such good friends? Especially since Thelma's character is under the thumb of her husband. So, like, she never really has freedom. So, like, when did she have time to build a relationship like this with Louise? So, like, it would be nice to have some of that history, or at least an explanation somehow of like when they became friends and how they became so close.
I mean, a little bit of the reading that I did last night, and by reading, I just Googled Thelma and Louise after the movie. And one of the things that I read said that they wanted to portray two women. Now, interesting, there was like a 10-year age difference between the two actresses,
Mhm.
but they wanted them to be basically like high school friends that maybe have gone kind of their separate ways and come back together in their small town. Which, by the way, I've been to Arkansas. None of this looked like Arkansas. That's all I have to say. And I just thought it was like, I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I kinda get that." Sometimes you kinda hang on to your high school friends or your childhood friends even though you don't have a ton in common. But I don't know, that was a little bit of a for me.
There
Yeah.
was a moment where we were in Thelma's house after she had left, and the cops were there, and there was a shot of three framed photographs. And one
Mhm.
of them was clearly Thelma and Daryl on their wedding day, and the other were these two girls who were embracing. And I just immediately assumed that was Thelma and Louise. And so, because they were so young, I was like, oh, they've been friends since they were little girls. Um, but you're right, Allie, there is this age difference. And apparently, because of the age difference in the research that I did for this movie, they cut some of that stuff out because they didn't want it to be distracting. Because according to them, Susan Sarandon was so obviously so much older. And I'm like,
She wasn't. She
I
wasn't.
didn't think, it never occurred to me. But
Never.
She's got great genes, because I did not realize it until I started doing research too, that she's like 10 years older than
mhm.
Geena Davis.
hmm So I think that backstory that you wanted, I think it was there, and I think they
Mhm.
just kind of cut it out for the movie so that it wouldn't distract because of their casting choices. So much about casting with this movie that we'll get into when we get into the
Yeah.
whole fun facts piece. But suffice to say, it took them a long time to find their Thelma and their Louise. And so they ended up with Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon. Lovely choices, I think. And part of that, and I think you're right. Maybe a little backstory would have been helpful. I think I was kind of looking for it as well, and that picture kind of that sold it for
Mhm.
me. I was like, oh, okay, they've been friends in school, cool. Because I had the same question. If Thelma was married to Daryl when they met, how on earth would they have ever crossed paths?
Right.
Mhm.
Because they're so different. So it made sense to me that there was a longer connection than that. And who knows? Families move and come back. Maybe she moved to Texas, had a traumatic experience, moved back to Arkansas. Okay. Um, I don't know. Or maybe Texas happened when she was very young. Gross, but I don't know. Um, anyway, uh, we're talking about the cast. Let's get into this cast. We will start just because Thelma comes first in the title, with Geena Davis as Thelma. This is the one for me that, even though I think both of these performances were remarkable, if I had to choose which one would get an award, I would give it to Geena, just because Thelma is a completely different person at the end of this movie. Louise moves, certainly. She becomes an outlaw, and that is a big change for anybody. But Thelma, makes such a remarkable transformation. And to Geena Davis's credit, I absolutely believed it.
Mhm.
When I saw the security footage during the robbery
The
scene,
robbery.
it was delightful, and I didn't go, "Oh, come on." And that would have been, listen, in lesser hands, I would have been very skeptical that, your ditzy housewife would have been able to pull that off, and yet I totally believed it. I just believed it. I thought she was great.
I like the transformation from naivety to actual just kind of criminal now. Like, and you're right. It's almost like Will Ferrell. uh he can play innocent so well, and it's never ironic. It's just him embracing it. And I kind of felt the same way with Geena Davis's character, where she just is innocent at the beginning of this. She's in a she's in an emotionally abusive relationship with her husband. He's just kind of an asshole. Um, and she kind of converts from this naive girl through into a woman that is kind of more jaded now and is just kind of taking control of her life. And I do think you get to see that journey through the entire film. So, and you see it in her acting.
I agree. I love Geena Davis. I will always love Geena Davis. This was around League of Their Own time, wasn't it? When was League of Their Own?
Oh, that's a good
I
I
kind
point.
of,
think
I
League of
kind of.
Their Own was a little bit later. This came before.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just sort of was like, oh, that's like Geena Davis '90s hair. Like she had the hair,
Oh yeah.
what I think of as like Beetlejuice, like that whole kind of time period. I thought she was great, and I do agree. I think that, like you said, in lesser hands, that transformation would be a little bit more cartoonish, and it wasn't. I believed it, and I think the second she started drinking her wild turkey, that was it. When she got out of her house and got under the thumb of Daryl and started drinking her beloved wild turkey, which she drank a lot of in the end, in the journey. No judgment, but just you drank a lot. You could kind of see, and also, when something traumatic happens to you, I feel like people kind of either go one way, they either go a little bit more victimy, or they're like, fuck this all. And I think, the presence of Louise being that sort of, I saw a lot of myself in Louise. And so, just kind of, I'm a very, here's what it's going to be. Here's how, I'm not the most nurturing individual in the world, but like, if you need to get shit done, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get it done for you. We're going to do it together. So, I think having that kind of, that steady hand also helped that transition.
All right, so let's talk about Louise,
Yeah.
Susan Sarandon. Not my favorite individual off screen,
Oh,
always,
correct.
Susan Sarandon, but
Correct.
a remarkable actor, cannot be denied. And she was incredible, I thought, in this film. What was interesting to me was that most of her she has a huge piece of trauma in her past
Mhm.
that informs everything going on in the present. So while Geena Davis got to play this whole transformation, what Louise had to do, the actor playing Louise, kind of had to give you hints and clues that there is more to this woman's story than what we're seeing on the screen. Like her story started a long time ago. Um, and I have to say, I remember when I saw this in the film, when she looks at Harlan in the parking lot and says, "By the way, when a woman's crying like that, she ain't having any fun." I was like, "Oh, she
Oh,
was raped." Like
yeah.
I mean, it was on her face, it was in her body. And when she just picks up the gun and shoots him, I was like, she just shot her old rapist, whoever that was. I mean, I got it. It made sense. And again, if you didn't have an actor who could bring that much to the performance, you'd be like, but she was safe. Why did she kill him? Like all of these things. And of course, if she didn't kill him, there'd be no movie. It all
True.
made sense to me. Like every bit of it made total sense. And I thought she was also fantastic.
I think the hard thing about that part right there is that because you don't know any of her history and she gives it to you all in one look, the actress or the actor has to be sympathetic and likable. And I think is regardless of what you think of Susan Sarandon's political beliefs, she's always relatable on screen. It's just there's just something about her that I've never seen her in a role where I wasn't compelled to like watch what she was doing. There's just something interesting about her every single time. Even when she's
Yes.
just doing voice work in Rick and Morty, she's great as the therapist. It's amazing. So I really enjoyed her performance in this movie.
I thought she was great. Like I said before, I really saw a lot of myself in the character of Louise without the murder, and traumatic backstory, but just, in sort of her steeliness and her way of getting shit done. And not to diminish or talk about people's, looks in relation to this film, is, I don't know, I feel like this might be Susan Sarandon's hottest movie. Like, I think she just looked so good in this movie, just with her hair wrapped in that scarf, and just, when she was, I don't know. It just, I was like, gosh, Susan Sarandon is so pretty. Not that Geena Davis isn't. I don't know. There was just something striking about the wardrobe choices for Susan Sarandon in this movie, which also was in addition to her acting, which I won't go on about, but it was also kind of compelling to the character too, because she was very fastidious. I don't know if you noticed when she was in her apartment, it was like neat as a pin. She washed that last glass before she leaves, and perhaps that's a reflection of the previous trauma that she had. That's like how she kind of came about it, but I found that very interesting too, to kind of get a little bit a look on her inner life like that.
I saw it in the restroom at the bar. All these other women are like poofing their hair out and doing that. And it's so, I mean, it's 91, but we had just left the 80s behind a hot second ago. And all these girls are very much in the 80s. And she is so put together. And even
Yep.
the waitress in the parking lot just kind of describes her as so tightly wrapped
Nope.
that there's no way in the world she could, yeah. And so she just had that thing. And I will say, in terms of, Matt talking about who's relatable, what I loved about this movie is that I begin this movie absolutely relating to Louise. I cannot relate to Thelma at all. But by the time the movie is over, I relate to them both. I never leave Louise, but Thelma really kind of grows on me. I love that scene where Thelma basically rescues her from the cop who's about to call them in. And Thelma is now like 100% badass. And Louise is a little like, what the hell are we doing? It's like, shoot the radio, the police radio, Louise. So great, because the roles have just absolutely switched, and in a totally believable way.
Well, it's funny because Thelma starts out as that friend that just aggravates you because they are constantly making bad decisions. Just
Yes.
like, and they have caused their own problems, and you're the one that has to sit there and get them out of it. You know what I mean? Or they drag you into their bad decisions. But by the end, she's like, this robbery thing, I think I have a knack for it.
I think you do. Okay, let's talk about the dudes, because any movie that attacks the patriarchy, you need to have a bunch of dudes. Weirdly, this movie just had people playing against type all over the place. The first one, Harvey Keitel, who is always in my mind the wolf from Pulp Fiction, like the stone cold killer in a tuxedo, is just about the nicest policeman you could have ever met in your entire life, from the Arkansas State Police, Hal.
Sure.
Who I want, you know what? I want a spinoff, and I want to see Hal get together with that waitress from the road stop, because they had some chemistry.
They had a nice little chemistry.
They had some chemistry going on,
Yeah.
and that little sheepish grin that he gives when he gets back into his car, I'm like, Harvey, are you hot? That's so weird.
Yeah, it was interesting when I saw Harvey Keitel's name. Again, I didn't know anything about this movie except the ending, which I know we're going to get into. When I saw Harvey Keitel's name pop up in the credits, I was like, what's he doing here? It just seemed, but I got it. If somebody's reliably going to play a police detective, it's going to be Harvey Keitel, nice or mean or whatever. Yeah, he was fine. I did, I guess I'm, a cab, but I'm jaded because, every time he would say to Louise, oh, you're just in for questioning. You're not going to be, arrested for anything right now. I didn't want to believe him, but I do. I guess he was sincere that he did want to help her. But my jaded 2026 mind was like, does he? Is this a trap?
See, I have a jaded response to Harvey Keitel as well, but we'll get into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not that. It's kind of the opposite of that.
Interesting. Yeah, he was fine.
I mean, the character itself, he did what he could with the character. The character is kind of vanilla. In my opinion, the character is there so that the patriarchy doesn't seem all that bad. Like, there are at least a couple of people out there not trying to fuck over women.
And that is 100% my jaded response. It was a safety valve. It was one of those things that it's like, we know this movie is going to get a whole bunch of shit from people who want to uphold the patriarchy. So let's include someone who is unbelievably saintly so that we can't get that pushback.
Yeah.
And they got it anyway.
Yeah. But and he did what he could with it, but I would have liked to have seen that character have a little bit more authority to help them than he seemingly did. There was no, you just kind of knew he wasn't going to be able to do anything. So,
but that was also well explained. He was the local cop who got called to the scene. once they crossed state lines and the FBI got involved, there's no way in the world he was going to have,
Yeah.
the authority to do anything, which made it good that he was the one who was trying to help, because this movie is about the patriarchy. It is about feminism, and it is about how the system does not trust or believe women. And so the system had to be not Hal.
Yeah.
One of my favorite performances in this entire movie, though, has to be Christopher McDonald as Daryl. This is what makes the movie a comedy drama for me, as opposed to just a strictly dramatic. He was fucking hilarious as the most hated character in the entire thing. I mean, you live to hate him, but boy, he goes there, and it's so fucking funny.
So I have a fun fact about Christopher McDonald that is not listed in your fun facts, Eric. So I promise I'm not scooping you. But the take where he trips when he goes out to his car, he
Mhm.
really did that, and Ridley Scott kept it in because he thought it was very much like the character and really fucking funny, which it was. So
And that's a brilliant actor just staying in character,
Correct.
knowing this could work. God damn it! And he
God.
throws this thing in. I mean, it's just so Daryl, such a dork.
Such a dork. I love Christopher McDonald. He will always be Shooter McGavin to me. But I've always loved him, and he's great in Hacks too. So
Mhm.
I was excited to see him back on my screen in Hacks. I think he's also very cute.
He plays a good dick.
He does play a good dick. Yeah.
And that is the one thing. Every time I think about this movie, even if it's been years, that the soundbite that just rings in my head is Thelma, get your butt back here now. It just, perfect.
My favorite is when Thelma calls towards the end and he says, "Hello, Thelma," with the police right there, and she hangs right up because
He knows.
and Harvey Keitel's
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck?" That was my favorite Daryl moment.
And yet he did exactly what they told him to do.
Right.
Tell her you miss her. Women love that shit. And it's like, she's not stupid. I mean,
No, but that's not the kind of relationship they had.
no, not at all. Someone else who played 100% against type for me, Michael Madsen, who I always remember from Reservoir Dogs and the whole, ear thing, was like, I mean, he wasn't the best boyfriend in the world. If he had the ability to commit without, a big manhunt going on, we might not have been here, because I
Mhm.
believe that's why Louise wanted to get out of town, is to nurse
Mhm.
her broken heart over her non-committal boyfriend, Jimmy. But boy, he rises to the occasion in more ways than one.
Well,
As Louise's boyfriend wants to be fiance, but I don't think quite gets there, although she does take the ring because, Diamond's her girl's best friend. Michael Madsen is Jimmy. He was great.
I was also jaded. This is also my 2026 because I also waited kind of for the other shoe to drop with Jimmy, that he wasn't going to bring her the money or he was going to, call the police, and he didn't. And so that was a nice pleasant little.
He did pull a fast one. He wasn't supposed to show up with the money. He
Correct.
was supposed to
Yeah.
wire it, and
Correct.
he did kind of say, "Okay, go here." And he was waiting, but it was all plausible.
Mhm.
But he didn't follow directions very well, as men are wont to do.
Shocker.
But but a decent guy.
Yeah. I mean, I texted you immediately when he popped on because I had forgotten about the character, and I was like, "Talk about playing against character." That shocked me, and he was actually good at it though. Like
Yeah.
he actually felt like a well-rounded character, even though
Correct.
we
I
only
agree.
spent minimal amount of time with him,
Mm-hmm.
and that was
Yeah.
that was really refreshing because you don't generally get that.
But I also wonder if Ridley Scott kind of, again, that whole jaded response I had to Hal, it was like, we know that we're going to have two really great upstanding guys in this movie. Let's highlight that even more in a weird way by casting two actors that are known for playing angry psychopaths a lot.
Brilliant.
Just to kind of,
Let's make a movie.
Yeah. And then finally, this is the movie that made this little guy named Brad Pitt a huge star.
Oof.
I mean,
Well deserved. I mean, his character was sort of whatever, and his acting was a little, but boy, did he look good.
That was his main job in this
Yep.
film, I believe.
Yep.
I mean, he sold it. Like, I was buying
yeah.
everything he was selling.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
mean, poor Thelma, I would have been just as stupid, probably. I mean,
Oh God. But see, here's my thing is that again, I didn't know anything about the movie, but I've seen a lot of movies, and so I knew that as soon as Louise left and left the money there and JD came back, I couldn't even enjoy the sex scene because I knew that he was going to take that fucking money, and I was getting real riled up about that because the whole thing was so dumb. Like, why did she leave Thelma with the money? Oh, I was so
Okay,
mad about that.
nobody knew that Cowboy Von Fuckstick was going to come a knockin'. Okay, so
I know, but still, she knows
but
Thelma.
but I agree. But that's the thing where it's like, to me, that's actually a sign of strength in the movie, that these characters are so well established that as soon as Louise gives her the money, we're like, oh, this is not going to end
Not
well.
gonna
And then when it
no.
doesn't end well,
Ugh.
you're not hugely surprised. But in that moment, what I loved about it is that Louise is the one that turns into a quivering mass of
Yeah.
Mhm.
goo. And Thelma is the one who's like, okay, get up, come on, we're going. And that was the moment that kind of the roles got reversed. And I thought, well, that was a pleasant surprise in what should have been just an awful scene that makes you feel terrible about everything. It was like, oh, look at Thelma. Like, and then it like picked up from there for me.
Well, it's also kind of it's believable too because that was Louise's plan, and now her plan has gone to shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's she gonna come up with now? And then I think at that point Thelma has the epiphany, like, oh fuck, I am the reason for all of this. I have to fix
Correct.
it. I have to fix this. So it was a great reversal, but it was also earned.
Yes. And also I think when you feel guilty for being that, you know, that much of a fuck up,
Mhm.
sometimes it just something kicks in and you're like, no one can fix this, but I have to do this.
Yes.
That's just, it's something I have to take on. So yeah, so that was, and there are more people in the cast. I thought about including, let's talk about Harlan, let's talk about that waitress in the parking lot. Tiny little role, but I was really taken by her. But I was also like, wow, except for her, there are like no women of consequence in this movie at all about a big feminist road trip. It's really just Thelma and Louise against all these dudes, which I
But
guess makes sense.
I think I think that is a statement in itself, that it's like kind of how strong the patriarchy is, and the isolation women feel from, or the lack of autonomy, essentially. Like they have to get away from men to
Yeah.
actually have any autonomy whatsoever,
Yeah.
an agency.
And I think it totally played where, when Thelma says, let's go to the police, it's like, and tell him what? It's like, well, let's say he was raping me. And it's like, everyone saw you on that dance floor.
Yeah.
No one is going to believe you. And to me, that is the crux of the whole thing, because in a just world, they absolutely could have gone to the police
Right.
and made up
I
a
felt
story
that.
and said, yeah, and made up a story about, Louise shot him to save me as he was raping me. They could have changed their story a little bit
Mhm.
and been well within the realm of the law, but it was just, everyone saw you dancing all over him, acting like a schoolgirl, which women are not allowed to have one moment of freedom or
Mhm.
forgetting their place in the patriarchy, or else this shit will happen. And that, I mean, all the other kind of road trip adventure outlaw, funny stuff, that to me is the crux of the whole movie, is that one piece of dialogue right there. We don't live in that kind of world, Thelma.
Mhm.
So, here we are.
I mean, I as a woman felt that 100%, it was one of those things where on one side I was like, well, like clearly you saw the bruises later, which I thought was a nice touch, like the bruises on her knees and where she like hit against the car and obviously she was bloodied and, probably very swollen, black eye, whatever. But then, I think about it and I think even now that's a reason that a lot of people don't report sexual assaults for
Mhm.
those types of reasons and those types of stupid ass judgy reasons where, it
Where
doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense if that
where they make it the victim's fault, like
right. Right. Oh,
regardless of
she was
whether.
wearing a tight shirt. She
Yeah.
was flirting with him. She was
Clearly
doing
leading him
whatever.
on. She was
Yeah.
rubbing all up against him on
Yep.
the dance floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ignoring the fact that he was feeding her drink after drink and making
Mhm.
sure that she drank them and giving her more than she could handle
And did
so
he
that he
roofie
could do what he
her, or
wanted.
did I make that up?
I
No, I
think
Because
think
she
it's
just
just
she
hadn't
alcohol.
drank. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she just
Okay.
hadn't drank in a really long time, and she was doing wild turkey shots. Like, she probably had 3 shots just sitting at the table. Who knows how many she had on the dance floor,
And a margarita, so
And
let's
yeah, and like a Coke back, which hilarious. So it's
I
just
mean
like a very tiny, tiny detail that I loved.
Okay. Because I mean, it also seemed like when she got real woozy, he didn't seem in the least bit surprised to me. I feel like they left that open.
It's possible. I think he knew that he was feeding her too much alcohol, and he was doing it on purpose.
And she
And
probably
Okay.
hadn't eaten, etc. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So this movie, when it came out, was incredibly controversial. Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon were on the cover of Time magazine, and the name of the article was "Why Thelma and Louise Has Struck a Nerve." The Catholic
Jesus
Church
Christ.
came out. Of course, the Catholic Church came
They
out.
have nothing better. They have
warning
nothing fucking better to
audiences
do. Give me a break.
against Thelma and Louise, calling it morally offensive because
Jesus
it
Christ.
glamorized murder and robbery and other sins, which I assume adultery would probably be up there if you're a Catholic. She was married. Despite the fact that Hal and Jimmy are in the movie displayed quite prominently, some critics came along and said, quote, "This film portrays all men as terrible human beings."
Where's
Did
the
you
lie?
even watch
Where's the
this
lie?
movie? Did you even, I mean, well, and the thing is, the lie is that no policeman would have been nearly as concerned
Correct.
with Louise as Hal was. I mean, they
Mhm.
went way in the opposite direction just to avoid this kind of pushback, and they got it anyway. But they also said, some women came out and said, feminism should not be about women acting like men.
God.
Huh.
Hugely controversial. So my question, because this whole podcast is really all about, one, we're not important, so no one sends us screeners, so we have to watch old movies. But two, as long as we're watching old movies, let's talk about how well they aged and whether or not they were a product of their time or whether or not they still work in our current days. So I guess my question is, are all these criticisms artifacts of 1991? Have we grown up at all? Or do you think we would get these same reactions today? I personally think the reaction to Hal and his saintliness would actually be more of a criticism today. People would go, "What? That makes no sense."
I mean, I think if anything, like some of the awfulness of the men did become, especially of the law enforcement, did become kind of cartoonish towards the end. But like, so I think there was a little bit lack of reality there. However, I think it was there to emphasize I, what women actually do deal with. And I don't believe that it was a glamorization of murder and robbery. I think it was them it was more of a glamorization of them like having like actual freedom and agency for once. And it's kind of bullshit to dog this movie for it when there's so many movies of men doing similar actions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfectly fine. Like I don't remember the Catholic Church coming out for like against movies like that. So like, what's the big deal? I think it's just because it's women that are that are portraying these actions.
Oh, please. This movie made men
Catholic
feel
Church come out.
impotent and sad.
Great. More, please.
See, I'm plus one, Allie.
I mean, honestly, it's just, I mean, spoiler, I didn't love this movie. But what I did love about this movie is that, you're right about the agency. I mean, it sucks that it had to get to that point for these women to have agency. And I think it was a little worse in 1991 than it is in 2026. Do I think that we've gotten that far? No, I do feel like obviously we had the whole Me Too movement. I do feel like in our current state of affairs, that is kind of stymied at this point, and not and a little hamstrung. And perhaps in a few years, when we're not in the hell that we're in right now, we can come back to it. But women have had these issues for time immemorial, right? And I thought it was bold. It was certainly a bold statement 35 years ago. I don't know that. I mean, this was 35 years ago. But talking about the critics from 1991 still riles me up as a woman in 2026. So it's hard to see because you're right. Like it's always the double standard. It's always, nobody's criticizing a movie, like Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, where it is, it's just, it just drives me nuts. And I wish that we were a little further along in that where we are now.
Well, I mean, the last one too are these when you're talking about it, women shouldn't act like men. That's not feminism. So then are we just going to say Aliens, where Sigourney Weaver is a fucking badass in the movie? Like that's, I mean, we that's not a good portrayal for women either, because they're acting like traditionally what men should act like. I mean, it's kind of bullshit. Like, why shouldn't women have freedom to be badasses? Like, I don't think it's a matter of men or women. I think it's just a matter of somebody kind of acknowledging their own agency and power and being able to exert it. And so I think that's kind of a bullshit statement, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know that necessarily Geena Davis, while she enjoyed robbing the liquor store, and I think she kind of enjoyed putting that cop in the trunk and getting away, there was a certain amount of, I think she enjoyed it because she finally found something she was good at. But they wouldn't have done it if they didn't have to. They didn't look
Mhm.
for a cop to put in his
No.
trunk. They didn't
No.
look for a liquor store to rob. They needed the money. They needed to get the hell out of, so they did what they had to do because, again, this whole thing was a snowball effect because they could not trust the police
Well,
when one of them had been almost raped.
and they didn't hurt anybody in either of those scenarios. They actually shot bullet holes in the trunk first so the guy could actually breathe, although he was probably going to cook a little bit
I
inside
like
that
that.
trunk.
I like that detail.
So they were making sure to take care of people, but at the same time, like, this is the first time in her life that Thelma is actually in control of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, granted, they're on the run from the law, but she's doing things and making decisions, and she is in control of her actions for the first time, it
Yeah.
seems like, in her entire life.
And
So
she
you're
got
going to
married
dock
to
her
this
for it?
guy when she was 18.
Yeah.
And also if she doesn't make the very best choices in the world, well, that's probably because she went right from high school to Daryl.
Ugh.
I
Right.
mean,
Right.
Talk about the beginning of bad choices.
exactly. She's so again, her history of bad choices built right in as soon as you meet Daryl. Anyway, okay, so let's spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen this film. Turn off this podcast right now and go watch the movie and then come back because we have to talk about the ending. Um, most of what people know about this movie, and I think Allie, you mentioned this too. The one thing that you knew was the ending.
Correct.
Like, holy shit, they die at the end.
Yep.
So let's talk about it. I don't have a problem calling this an iconic ending. That freeze frame of the T-Bird descending into the Grand Canyon is just burned into my memory and will never leave. And I was truly shocked when I saw this in the theater. Was not expected. I thought they'd get away. I didn't think they'd get away with it. I thought they would probably end up crossing into Mexico and it would be like a Shawshank Redemption kind of ending, hugging on the beach because they're finally free. Totally did. I'm shocked out of my skin at this ending, and I think a lot of people who saw it in the theater kind of felt the same way. It's just not what we expected, and yet this movie was so, like, it felt like a movie from the 70s almost, and so many of those, like, the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid thing that ends in the same way, kind of a freeze frame as they're about to get completely cooked. It had some callbacks to that, so it totally it worked. But Allie, you knew what was coming, so you were not shocked. But what were your feelings?
I thought, well, first I thought it was very artfully done. I enjoyed it from, like a cinematic standpoint. I thought it was an interesting choice. And one of the questions you sort of pose is, was it a cop out? Pardon the pun. Or was it, a thoughtful choice for the women given where they were going to be, where they were? I don't know. I kind of struggled with it. Obviously I knew it was coming. I didn't quite understand how we were getting there. And I thought it was fine. I guess I didn't really feel strongly one way or the other about it. I do understand that they probably, they'd be locked up in jail and, that kind of ends the arc that they've had for the last, 2/3 of the movie. I don't know that dying was necessarily a better option, but in the context of the movie, it made sense for them to just sort of go out in a blaze of glory. From a rational standpoint, I don't know. I don't know if it was the greatest idea ever.
It made total sense for me, more for Thelma than for Louise.
Mhm.
Thelma had that moment about, I can't go back. I
Right.
can't.
Mhm.
And she'd been in one kind of prison, and I think go into another just would have been
Mhm.
like not possible for her mentally or emotionally. Um, and maybe I think Louise just, again, she was against the idea. She's like, she was very much into her freedom from the very beginning.
Right.
And, death isn't exactly freedom, but if it's one that you choose, it's more free than being apprehended by the FBI.
Well, I think at that moment too, Louise realized that she had dragged Thelma into this. I mean, because she was the one that didn't want to go to the police in the beginning. She was the one that started this entire car chase and said, "Hey, we're just going to escape. We'll just go to Mexico, and then we'll restart our lives." So she kind of put them on a path that either they achieved their goal of getting to Mexico or they were screwed. Like, you know what I mean? And so she kind of had to say, okay, yeah, let's
She
do
did,
this.
but Matt, I also, one of the things I really like about this movie was that it was Thelma, and it was absolutely Thelma's idea to rob the liquor store.
Oh,
First time Louise heard about it was hearing Thelma go, "Louise, drive, go get."
True.
And that gave them both, and it was absolutely Thelma that put that cop in the trunk of that car. So by the time we got to the end, they were both in deep shit. There was one of them could not throw the other under the bus.
Oh,
That
no.
was no longer a possibility.
100%.
But it was all entangled. Had they gone to the police to begin with,
Yeah.
Thelma never would have been in the
Well,
position.
and if Louise had just walked away, I mean,
Yeah.
they,
Right.
all that, and I'm not saying she should have, or that it would have been a better movie, but if these were friends of mine, I would have said, "Louise, walk away.
Right.
Shoot him in the foot if you absolutely
That's what I
must."
say. Shoot him in the leg.
Well, although cops say never fire a weapon unless you want to kill somebody, because it's amazing how much adrenaline will take over for a shot in the leg. Doesn't matter. You could still get beat up or killed. So don't ever fire a gun unless you want to kill somebody. But shoot his car or something.
Right.
But no, she shot him in the heart, and off they went. And so here we are. Yeah.
But I would have thought that the Catholic Church would be happy that they died in the end, because that's kind of, they didn't get away with any of it. So
I mean, in a way, this was a very Hays Code ending.
Yes.
People have to pay for their sins, and boy, they sure did.
They sure did.
Yeah, and see, and I was expecting them to absolutely, go to Mexico and 100% get away with it.
Agreed.
I would have enjoyed that ending, but I can see why they couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
honestly, this is more poignant that they didn't get away with it.
I mean, in a way, Shawshank Redemption also shocked me at the end, because I was like, wow, all that, they got a happy ending. Wow. And I was confused that I wasn't mad at it, because I mean, this is not a podcast about the Shawshank Redemption, but sometimes happy endings can seem a little like unearned
or trite. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in a way, I think this movie had to end this way if it really wanted to say the important things it wanted to say. I don't think there could have been a way out for Thelma and Louise, because it's a movie about how fucked up the world is.
Agreed.
And so getting them out of it would have been, totally beside the point. But my last question about the ending is, was it completely a sad ending? Was there some happiness to be found?
Well, the weird thing about the ending, like they get away, even though it's not really a great getaway, but they also then, after they go off the after what happens, since we're not doing spoilers here.
Oh, we are doing spoilers.
No, we spoiled it.
Okay.
We more than spoiled this movie.
After they go off the cliff, then they go back to photos of them together as kids and stuff. I mean, and you see like happy photos. And so you're kind of left with this weird happy ending at the end anyways, that you're supposed to feel like it's happy. That was kind of odd to me.
Roger Ebert had very strong feelings about that moment. He actually gave this movie 3.5 stars. He denied it a perfect 4-star ending, because he said the freeze frame that ends the film faded much too quickly and faded into what he referred to as a, quote, vulgar carnival of distractions.
I love Roger Ebert.
Flashbacks to the jolly faces of the two women, the roll of the end credits, and an upbeat country song. And he was so pissed that they ended it so badly, when he said they should have let that freeze frame just sit there in silence and let the audience go, oh my God.
I agree.
And I agree 100%. I thought it was kind of I'm glad they did it. Knowing what I know about studios and probably how much the studio probably hated the blaze of glory ending that was written. I'm glad they got away with it, but I wonder if this was some kind of weird kind of compromise. But it did kind of fuck up the end.
Yeah.
And I noticed it too. I was like, what's with the slideshow? And then when I was reading Roger Ebert's review, I was like, see, me and Roger, we are one.
It's so funny. It didn't bother me. Maybe because I knew it was coming. I don't know. Just
Okay, so we have a bunch of other fun facts about this film, much of them to do with casting. So let's go ahead and start. It took producers, they had cast Geena Davis and locked her down for Thelma, but it took them so long to cast the role of Louise. Eventually, they went back to Geena Davis and changed her contract and said, you will play either Thelma or Louise, depending on who else we can get.
I read that Geena Davis wanted Louise first. Like she was gung ho. She wanted to be Louise.
That is so surprising to me because she's
Yeah.
so perfect
Yeah.
for Thelma,
was-
and not everyone could play both sides of Thelma
Correct.
that well.
Yeah, no, she really wanted Louise, like when the project
Okay.
first came up. So I thought that was interesting.
Actresses that were considered for both roles along the way included Meryl Streep, of course.
Nah.
I could see her as Louise.
I could see her in this movie. I could see her doing anything, but I'll just say none of these women excite me more than who they ended up
Correct.
with. I think they ended up with exactly the right people. And all of these women I really like. Cher.
Mm-hmm.
More of a
see Cher.
Louise than a Thelma.
Correct.
Yeah.
Goldie Hawn, more a Thelma than a Louise.
Correct.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Thelma.
Oh, I could see her as Louise. She's got that steely kind of,
Suki from Witches of Eastwick. That it's a similar kind of role where you start out innocent and you change throughout the course of the movie, and I could definitely see Michelle Pfeiffer playing Thelma because
but White Oleander, she is made of steel, so I mean she could do either one. But yeah. Anyway, speaks to the quality of the women that they finally got. That we went through some pretty big stars before we ended up there. Geena Davis was the one that picked Brad Pitt. They had cast a whole bunch of young, unknown hunks, and they couldn't make up their minds. And somebody went to Geena and said, well, do you have a preference? And she was like, yeah, that one. Get that guy.
He is a pretty man.
Yeah.
Well, another pretty man had the role and had it locked down, but then he dropped out, which is William Baldwin.
I don't think he's pretty. I think he's creepy.
Oh, I think William Baldwin is hot.
Mm-hmm.
And JD is a little creepy.
True.
A little creep factor could actually work for JD. I'd have been fine with William Baldwin. Other actors considered for JD included a then unknown George Clooney, unknown Mark Ruffalo, and a known but I think still in his troubled phase Robert Downey Jr., who ended up being rejected because he was too short to play opposite Geena Davis. She towered over him.
Fair.
I could see the young George Clooney playing that character, but Brad Pitt, there's something about the charisma that he brings to the screen, even because he's a con man.
Right, the sleaziness, but like the charisma and the sleaziness at the same time.
Yeah, it just kind of works. I don't see any of these other guys really having that, except maybe George Clooney, which is kind of weird to say because you kind of think of George Clooney as a good guy, but I could see him. He's got that similar kind of charisma.
But he's mischievous. I mean, you've heard about all the pranks that he and Brad have played on each other throughout the years. He's got a little devil in him. Geena Davis also recommended Christopher McDonald to play Daryl. Christopher McDonald was her ex-boyfriend, but apparently they had ended on decent terms. And when she pitched him to the filmmakers, she described him as the funniest guy in the entire world. You need to get Christopher McDonald. And I think she was probably correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. During filming, Ridley Scott decided he wanted Geena Davis to take her top off in the scene with JD. She wasn't sure what she wanted to. She didn't want to do it, but she wasn't sure how to handle the situation. She went to Susan Sarandon for advice. Sarandon said, I'll take care of it. And Sarandon walked right up to Ridley Scott and said, yeah, that's not happening.
I love Susan Sarandon for that.
I mean, I
Yep.
love Susan Sarandon for a lot of things. I think she's misguided in some of her decisions off screen, but she's a badass.
Yeah,
I'll give
she
her that.
is.
Yes, yes.
Finally, a little bit of Oscar trivia. This is the fifth, and as of this moment in 2026, the most recent film to be nominated twice for Best Actress, after All About Eve, Suddenly Last Summer, The Turning Point, and Terms of Endearment. And to your point, Allie, only one of these films ever came up with a Best Actress prize. A lot of times because people probably did split the vote. Okay, so it's time for a game. Who's ready? There are no new ideas under the sun. So we are remaking Thelma and Louise for 2026. We are all in the role of casting consultant. And so it is up to you to pitch actors for the following roles. We need a Thelma to play this role in 2026, a Louise, and one of the various dudes, one or two of the dudes in the movie. Go ahead and put some actors in those roles as well. If you would like to, go ahead and choose who is going to direct this film, who is going to adapt the screenplay from the original by Callie Curry, and any script changes that you might recommend because it is 2026 and we are going to set this film in the current day. This is not going to be a period piece. So, Allie, you did our cold open for us today, so I'm going to ask Matt to go first on our game here.
This was really hard for me. I was sitting here coming up with all these great ideas. So my first pick for Louise was Natasha Lyonne, but she's a little too old for the character now. If you want to keep it in their same kind of age range, so for me, I kind of went younger. So I ended up, my Thelma is going to be Elle Fanning. I think Elle Fanning.
We went real young. Okay.
I
did not, so I'm curious to hear the rest of this. Yeah.
She's 28. I kept it in 30s.
Okay.
I tried to keep it, so they could play like late 20s, early 30s. So I went Elle Fanning, and just because Elle Fanning has that similar quality where she has this innocence that she can portray, and then all the way down to like real severity, and she finally understands things. You know what I mean? So she is my Thelma. My Louise is Jennifer Lawrence. And they're going to be cousins. So that kind of helps that relationship. So that already builds something in. So they've known each other for a really long time. I went overboard. My Jimmy is going to be Robert Pattinson because I think he can play kind of a sleazy guy, but also like kind of a nice guy. My Daryl is Alden Enrich because I think he can play comedy, but is also can be kind of a jerk. And then I don't know if you guys are watching Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
No, I sure am not.
No.
It's a great concept. It is bad writing, and they treat the audience like they're dumb. However, the cast is great. And the main character, Caleb, played by Sandro Rosa, he's just got, he's a distractingly beautiful man. But he also has a lot of charisma, like Brad Pitt has. And he's anchoring this show, which is arguably bad. So he's doing a really great job. He's going to be my JD. And then I want to have Catherine Bigelow direct it. If I'm going to bring back Thelma and Louise, I want a female director to actually handle this. So it's going to be Thelma. That is my pitch.
Okay. Excellent. Allie, go for it.
Okay, so I skewed a little bit older, which I think is fine because, like I said, Susan Sarandon was 44. So my Thelma is going to be played by Kirsten Dunst.
Good choice.
I think she can do a hell of a Thelma. My Louise is going to be Michelle Williams. So I think the two of them together is a really good combination of like two excellent actors in their 40s. And then I actually picked this person to play my detective, to play the Hal, before I read your outline, Eric, because I went straight to the game and I didn't look at anything else. But sort of in a little bit of a revengey thing, I have Mark Ruffalo as my Hal.
That's great.
That is great.
Wasn't on purpose, but apparently was meant to be. I'm thinking of, his recent role Task. I think that he could be kind of that good-hearted, kind-hearted
Mhm.
detective. He plays that kind of schlumpy character pretty well these days. Um, I am actually this is going to be written or adapted and directed by kind of controversial director Emerald Fennell. She's definitely gotten some interesting reviews. I've not seen her Wuthering Heights, but she definitely has a
Will
history.
you see her Wuthering Heights? It has just been panned.
Maybe. I mean, that's feel like a rainy Sunday kind of movie. I don't need to see it on the big screen. But what I want to do is kind of lean when we were talking about this, and it was kind of reminding me a little bit of a Heart of Darkness sort of story, where
Mhm.
right, like you start kind of innocent, and then based on the circumstances that happen to you, you become more and more jaded, more and more dark. You like kind of lean into that side of you. And I would like to see this be a darker movie. So kind of to your point, Matt, I think in 2026 we can make it a darker movie because we've had the Me Too's and we've had the kind of third wave feminism and all those sorts of things. So I would like to lean into a darker way, and I think Emerald Fennell is kind of good at looking at those sorts of worlds and changing them. So that's
I
what
will
I'm
say
going
that
for.
my favorite Emerald Fennell film is Promising Young
It's
Woman,
so
which
good.
has
It's so good.
shades of Thelma and Louise
Correct.
in it.
Correct.
So I think that if she could lean back into that
Yep.
part of her, yeah, I've heard so many awful things about Wuthering Heights in quotation marks
Correct. But
that yeah, that's going to be a no-go for me unless I'm forced to do it, unless 10 years from now one of you picks it to talk about on the pod. I am not watching that movie.
Well, and one other thing I wanted to mention is that I feel like this is kind of an American story, especially with the setting of the cowboys and the western. And so I really wanted to pick American actors, and obviously Emerald Fennell is not American, but I wanted to pick American actors, especially in Thelma and Louise. So
Okay. So I have a little bit of a repetition in mind, which sometimes happens when we have, good ideas coming around. Um,
yeah.
I wanted Thelma and Louise. My first thought for Louise actually was Zendaya.
Mm.
I was gonna do her for Thelma.
Okay. I think she'd have been a brilliant Louise. But then I started looking and I said, you know what I really want for Thelma and Louise is even though it shouldn't make a difference because actors are professionals, I thought, I really want two actors who are really good friends already.
Oh,
Hmm.
Like, I
okay.
want them to have a relationship that goes back years. And I started looking for who are some BFFs in Hollywood. And I was like, women in their 30s. And the first thing that came up, Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, they're
And
besties.
so they are, and they're funny, and they have that repartee. And so I put Emma Stone as Thelma, and like you, Matt, I put Jennifer Lawrence in as Louise. And I think they would have a great time. I did cast two of the dudes because I just had to. The first one I don't think is very controversial. I think he'd be great. I wanted to put Idris Elba, who can do an American accent, in as Hal,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought
Yeah.
he would be a really because I was like, who would I believe in this role? Because to me it is still slightly kind of unbelievable, and that's a script change that I'll get to. The
Add
other
some
one,
gravity to that character too.
yeah, the
Yeah.
other one, bit controversial, but here's my take on this. I believe that when someone who is not an actor decides to get into acting, what they really ought but they're hugely famous for something other than being an actor. A really good thing for them to do is take a small but pivotal role in somebody else's movie, right? So I think Madonna did this really well when she did Desperately Seeking Susan. Susan was actually a very small role in that movie, but she was great. Justin Timberlake did the same thing. He was in
Mm-hmm.
Black Snake Moan for like 5 minutes and kind of thought, did I get any good reviews? Did I ruin the whole film? Blah, 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 blah. I think that Travis Kelce actually did such a good job doing Saturday Night Live. I'm like, you could be on screen. And if he wants to do something after he's done with his thing, and I think he's very handsome and he's very charismatic and he plays that Goomba dude so well. I cast him as Jimmy. So he could just pop
Okay.
in, say hi to Jennifer Lawrence, have that scene, propose, kind of get turned down, and we're done. But I went ahead and put him in there just because you want someone who looks like they could be from this Arkansas town, but also someone that you're like, oh, it's a shame they couldn't end up together. because I did feel that with Louise and Michael Madsen. I was like, it's a shame that this is all so fucked up that they can't go back and work things out, because they actually seem like a good couple. Um, to me, I thought I was, like, it's a huge obvious choice, but no one went along with me on this. To me, written and directed by Greta Gerwig. Obviously, I thought just
Oh,
that's just
yeah.
such an obvious choice. And the one change I would make is I would include in the backstory, first of all, Emma and Jennifer are of similar ages, so I think just friends since the third grade works. Put that in a script somewhere. The other thing, though, is that I would have Hal, because my Hal is a bit older than either Thelma and Louise. When he was a young police officer, he actually worked on the case of Louise's rapist and knows
Ah,
firsthand knowledge just how awful those crimes were. And so as
okay.
soon as he picks up on Louise Sawyer, it's like, wait a minute, I know that name. Where do I know that name? And it's because she was in the victim files on this first case. And so he has a sense, like, his first image of her is she's a victim of this horrible, horrible, violent. And to me, that would give him a little bit more, I would believe it more,
I like that.
that he's just so, invested in making sure she's okay. So anyway, that would be my thing. Although in 2026, who knows? Maybe I would cast a woman in the role of Hal.
Mm.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe it would be Emma Thompson in an American accent,
Or Jodie Foster,
or
maybe?
Jodie Foster as
Jodie
Hal. Oh,
Foster would
Jodie
be great.
Foster would be a great Hal,
Yeah.
or Susan Sarandon as Hal.
Ah. Mhm.
Coming back and saying, and that way it's like that you kind of buy it. It's like the one woman in this all male law enforcement agency going, wait a minute, let's not throw these women under the bus. That actually, just thinking of this now, might make a whole lot more sense. Um, it is time for Skip, Rent, or Buy. And usually this is a pretty quick thing, but I think I want Allie to talk a little bit more about her choice when she's done, because you mentioned that you didn't love this movie, and yet, we've been talking about it, and it just, so I'm curious. I think I'm pretty sure you're not a buy, but tell us what your choice is, and talk a little bit about your reaction to Thelma and Louise.
So I'm not a buy. I am a solid rent. I feel like everybody should see this movie. We've talked about all the ways it's sort of a seminal movie, especially in the last 40 plus years. A movie that kind of was ahead of its time in certain ways. It was you know a splash for a variety of reasons. All of those things. I and again, I don't know if it's because I hadn't seen it before and, I sort of 35 years of hype in my head when I was watching it. And, that can lead to unrealistic expectations, I think, especially for myself. I was a little bored. At a certain point, I was like, okay, what kind of like new hijinks are we getting into? It was like, I looked at I like to pause occasionally, and I paused at a certain point. I was like, "How do we have an hour and 5 minutes left in this movie?" All of the things had happened. All of the crimes, and then I get that the last couple were probably more fuck the man kind of things versus adding to the plot. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Yeah, I just felt kind of neutral towards it, and again, for all of the reasons where I think things could have been fleshed out a little bit, should have been fleshed out a little bit. But overall, I'm glad I watched it, and I will probably never watch it again. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Okay, Matt.
I think this is a must rent. If you have not seen the movie before, this is a good movie, in my opinion. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. It is a little bit long in places. I think they probably could cut out some of it and that'd be fine, or shorten some of the scenes a little bit, But overall, you get great performances from both Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon. Like you're watching the movie for them, and they're incredible in the movie. And honestly, as crazy as things get, the entire thing is kind of believable. Like I understand why they're on the run, because especially in 1990, I don't think they would have gotten a fair shake. Like, and it's just like it shows how shitty we have been over the years, like, and why we have to be better about things. So I definitely think you should rent it if you've never seen it. is it comfort food for me? No, so it's not going to be a buy. Like I probably won't just sit down and watch Thelma and Louise again. There's other movies I would watch instead. If somebody hadn't seen it and wanted to watch it, I would definitely sit down and watch it with them. It was a good movie, but so it's a solid rent for me.
Okay. I love that distinction, a must rent. That might have to become part of our vocabulary because there are movies that I think are absolutely essential that you're right. They're not comfort food. They're not going to be, repeated viewings over and over and over again because they don't necessarily bring you joy.
Yeah.
But they're so good and you just recognize that they're good. I guess that's where I am. I put myself as a buy. I actually do have quite an extensive movie library of movies that I've purchased. This is not one of them, but it's a brilliant film. I mean, I just think it's so good. And yeah, it does take a little bit of time doing what it's doing, but I think that if it were just about plot points, it should be a lot faster. But to me, it's also about how these two women evolve and how their relation, not only they evolve personally, but how the relationship between them evolves a lot.
Yeah.
And how Thelma grows up. I did do the same thing as you did, Allie. At one point, I turned and said, "We have 20 minutes left." I said, "We're almost at the end. What's going to happen?" And I was like, "Oh, they have to blow up the oil tanker." And that was purely audience enjoyment.
Correct.
I mean, it was, although it was a little bit of character saying, here's what it looks like when a woman has 0 fucks left and how much fun they have. And I have to tell you, I don't know who that guy was who played the trucker, but hilarious. Just such a Neanderthal asshole. So much so that I just loved watching his truck get blown sky high and then, them whipping out in their T-Bird. Yeah, great fun. So yes, I'll say bye, but I think I'm probably in that must rent place where Matt is. So we're going to come back in a week, and we are flashing back to 1986. This time, I was a sophomore in high school when Jumpin' Jack Flash came out, and I have never seen this film.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
It's such a great Whoopi Goldberg vehicle. Yes.
Yeah, I am very, very excited. I was 9 when this movie came out. I definitely watched it probably as a high schooler. And it is so quintessential Whoopi. It's so good. I haven't seen it in probably maybe like 7 or 8 years, but I've
Okay.
definitely seen it multiple times, and I cannot wait to hear what you think of it.
Okay, well, I am looking forward to it. This is the Rewind Project. I am Eric.
I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
Be kind, rewind.
You've been listening to The Rewind Project. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, and Google Play. Please subscribe and rate us. It helps a lot. We love your comments and questions. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and via our new phone number at 202-618-2402. Thanks for listening. Be kind. Rewind.
When I was doing my research, I actually came across a couple of fun facts that are not listed in your fun facts. So I'm not scooping you, but apparently Geena Davis was the one. She used to date Christopher McDonald and said, "Hey."
That is fun fact number 6C,
Oh, shit.
Allie.
6D.
C.
Oh shit. Well, anyway, you can cut this part out.